It's Friday. It's Friday. It is Friday. Hey. Mm-mm-mm. Hey. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. How is everybody? Hey, Brandon. Hey, Guru. How are y'all? Are y'all feeling good? If y'all hear some music, it's because my wonderful Latinx neighbors are playing music really loud. They're having fun, and I think that is great for the community to hear people having fun and enjoying themselves. So I'm not going to complain about the music being loud. People are just trying to find joy somewhere. I like your lipstick or lip gloss. Yes, this is lipstick. Mm. It's pink. I love a nasty hot pink. Hot or pink. Mm. Hey, Queen. How are you? 313. Is that Detroit? Yeah. Hey, Miss B. I enjoy your video on transgender visibility. Yay! Thanks for watching. Make sure as y'all come in, thumbs up. Mm. I hope y'all, hey, Coco. I hope y'all are up. Y'all have watched the platform. Work, Detroit. Yeah. I enjoyed the recent podcast. Yes, we put a podcast out every Thursday. I am the host and creator of Marsha's Plate. If you don't know, or if this is the first video of mine that you have watched, my podcast is on all platforms. Is Marsha, as in Marsha P. Johnson. That's what who's is named after. And if you don't know who Marsha P. Johnson is, she is a Black trans pioneer from New York who is one of the three people who started a rebellion at Stonewall Inn in 1969. And it was her, a Latinx woman named Sylvia Rivera, and a butch lesbian named Stormy DeValier. I think that's how you say her last name. She's Creole, so she has a French last name that's hard to pronounce. But her name is Stormy, and we wouldn't have gay pride in the way that it has manifested now if it wasn't for those ladies. So we named our podcast after her, Marsha's Plate, as in plate of food. I do have a video explaining our conception, so you can check that out. It is on my channel. So yes, my podcast is on all platforms: Pandora, Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, of course, iHeartRadio, tons of wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there. Luminary, wherever. Um, let's see. I haven't watched, but my brother told me about it. Great. So it's something that y'all can watch, or it's gonna be some spoilers. Really? I don't know. Is it gonna be some spoilers? Oh yeah, yeah. So if you haven't watched it, we're gonna discuss it. Well, I hope y'all discussed it. That's why I plan. I hope y'all watched it. Have y'all watched it or have y'all not? We don't have to discuss it. That's what I wanted to discuss. Yeah, it's really, really good. So we're gonna talk about it. But I think you can still enjoy the conversation without watching the movie the way I'm gonna discuss it. Mm. But there will be spoilers. So yes. So what have y'all been doing during Corona? What have y'all been? How y'all been keeping yourself occupied and de-stressed? Definitely was enough food for everyone, but they knew that in the beginning. But Think about now as we are in Corona. There's definitely enough toilet paper for everyone, but people are hoarding and not thinking about community. Not that we, not that toilet paper is anything, but um, you still can enjoy the conversation, Coco. You'll still, it's conversations about capitalism, for real, for real. But think about how we're doing now with Corona, and people are just snatching stuff up. Like I went to Target today, and hold on, let me show y'all. Yeah. Literally went to Target, and there was a lady at the register with a box of these, and she said, "It's one of these, and one of these per customer. Antibacterial wipes, one little hand sanitizer for your purse, and one for the house." And she wouldn't let anybody get more than one. It is one per customer. And I thought that just the fact that they have to sit and ration out, let me put some on while we're talking. Hand sanitizer. Not that I needed it, because as I had told you, I worked at Bath and Body Works for forever. So I got like a whole box and drawer of smell good hand sanitizer, even like old school ones. The old shape, this is the new shape. The old shape, I still got that. So, you know, but the fact that they have to ration it out because people are greedy and hoarding is kind of crazy. Is that kind of crazy? I don't know. It just feels crazy. It just feels crazy. I still work. The post office don't stop. Yes, the post office don't stop. I think post coronavirus, there will be lots of opportunity for people who prepared now, i.e., career change, learning new skills. That's true. That's true. Dumbass hoarding toilet paper for a respiratory issue. It makes no sense. Totally agree. That's stupid. But then, but wait. Individuals, I think that's stupid, but families, not so much. My brother lived with me for like 2 years. Um, and more asses in the house definitely means, on a consistent basis, means more toilet paper being used. Because I was running out of toilet paper way faster while he was in the house than when I'm by myself. And so if you have a family of multiple people, that's a lot of ass wiping. So you might need toilet paper. It's not a need, because if you run out, you can use towels and just wash the towels like you do baby cloths. It is a perfect time to save, because you're not going out to eat, because all the food places, most of them are not open. Most of the places that I go to. Now, if you go into fast food places, I think fast food is still open, but I don't really eat fast food. If I eat like out, I'm going to like a restaurant like Papados, or some not fast food, like typical burgers and like McDonald's, Wendy's, Taco Bell. I'm not going to that. I'm going to my Vietnamese restaurant where I can get some pho, and my Indian restaurant, places like that. That's where I usually go eat. But all of those places are closed. So I'm not spending money on that stuff. So that kind of helps me. Um, I'm cooking more. I done cooked more in this week than I probably have in the past 3 months. I cooked some beef stew. I'm cooking I'm not cooking, it's not cooking, but I'm making some tuna salad with apples and walnuts. Um, I've been eating like yummy ass avocado sandwiches. I would like avocado toast, and you put avocado on one side of the bread and hummus on the other side, and then you put tomatoes and red onions and lettuce and it's so good. That I had cooked some. I cooked some red beans and rice. I cooked some cabbage and jalapeno smoked sausage with sweet cornbread made from scratch. Ooh, I was feeling good. I think I got one bowl left. Um, yes, I've been cooking like a hell, like honey, old school. Let's see. I'm afraid this hoarding will become a habit for future catastrophes. Oh yeah, people are dumb. This is let's see, maybe because I live by myself, but I buy the toilet paper from Sam's. The big me too, Brandon. Me too. Like I buy big bulks. And toilet paper is a couple of things that I just buy all the time. Toilet paper, dishwashing liquid, bleach, and clothes washing powder. Not powder, but the washing liquid. Because I always think I'm out, I always rebuy them. So yes, I always have tons of toilet paper and tons of, those things, cleaning supplies. Um, I lived in Houston during many big storms. I saw this hoarding thing more times than I can count. I automatically start shopping at first hint of danger. That's true. We both live in Houston. Um, Hey Ray, we both live in Houston, and during it's a couple of things that I learned in Houston during events like this. So I've been here. I've lived through Ike, I lived through Rita, I lived through Harvey, and those were the main ones. The floods. I haven't had no. This is first for everybody. Some disease ass fucking some disease pandemic. This is the first for that. We will get in the topic. I'm giving folks a little time to come on in. Um, hey, if you're just joining us, thumbs it up. Katrina was a big one. Katrina, I wasn't in Houston for Katrina. I was in Indianapolis, and so it didn't really affect me. It didn't affect me in my personal life, but because I have family in Louisiana and Mississippi, um, that were down there when it was happening, and I have an intimate relationship with New Orleans um, and family in those regions. It affected me emotionally. Um, so, not financially or physically, but it definitely affected me emotionally. Yeah, it's one of the worst national, like New Orleans affected me. Katrina affected me more emotionally than 9/11. Actually. Yeah. Um, 9/11 was a shocker. There were certain things that was like when I was seeing people jump out windows of the buildings, that was like, oh Lord, that was horrible. But overall, Katrina was way worse on me emotionally. Um, Diamond, can I ask a question about the podcast? I don't want to seem shady though. Ooh, when somebody give me a preface of I don't want to seem shady, it seems like it's about to be shade. But it's okay. Go ahead. Y'all. Hey Demetria, how are you? Um, yes. We'll get started in about 5 minutes, 4 minutes. But I don't know how to pronounce your name. The Alaya Mizani, I think that's how you say it. Mm, mm, mm. Hey Didi, how are you? Welcome. We're gonna start at 7:25. Um, I'm waiting for Miss Alani to tell me what questions. What questions she has, or I don't know if you're a boy or girl, but they have. Ray, what did you like about Platform? Why did you think it was lit? Has everybody, Demetria, have you watched it? If you're watching, thumbs up. Yeah, I rewatched Handmaid's Tale last week. That's why I did the show on it because it was fresh on my mind. I'm trying to think of what I'm gonna rewatch that's free. I rewatch even before the girl Mia. She's the trans girl. Why does she give me a vibe of a Kelly Bundy? Is that planned or is that really her personality, like airy? No shade, really. Um, I think that's her. That's her personality. Um, she can be airy sometimes. Um, I wouldn't say as airy as Kelly Bundy. That's a hyperbole, but um, she's just a she's airy sometimes. But that's the joke. That's why she's entertaining. I have a question about the census for trans people. Yes, Melissa, what is your question about the census? That's a good subject. Um, it was just really good. I couldn't imagine being a prisoner there. The end of the platform was interesting too. Yes. Hey, Camille, how are you? Oh, okay, good. Okay, Demetria. It's a good show if you like those type of movies. It's like a thriller. There are a little bit of gore, but it's not crazy. Um, yeah. Melissa, go ahead and ask your question about the census. That's a good question because I think people, trans folks some have been having interesting questions about the census. Mm-mm. Why aren't trans people counted? Do they want you all to present as your dead name if you haven't legally changed it yet? Oh, okay, good question. No, I wouldn't survive on the platform. I would be so depressed. Um, so trans people are not counted on the census because we elected, not we, but because this country elected Donald Trump, where the census was going on the Democratic side was to include trans people. But because we elected a conservative Democrat like Donald Trump, it was decided that we would not, this administration decided that we would not be counted. There would not, transgender would not be added to a box for you to check. Um, and so we will not be counted. It's not because it's not really about name change or legal. That's really not relevant. It's about, and actually, it's just about just trying to keep us to the point of not existing because the census is about redistributing, not redistributing, of how resources are being distributed. And so if you don't count us, if we don't officially exist on the census or in the fabric of society, there's no need for us to get specific money for our particular group. So that was a way of them kind of erasing us until, we get somebody a little bit more conservative, a little bit more progressive, which won't happen until the next time is 2030. So every 10 years. But what I suggested to people of trans experience is to when they check the box, male or female, do what they think will politically help them. So for me, I am a woman. So politically, I want women to be beneficial. Benefit. I want them to have the benefit of numbers. So I am not going to click male on my census. I am going to click woman. Because I want the numbers to be high so that not just because that's my identity, but if say that I was a trans man, just because that's numbers, I would click girl. I would, because the more women, the more the need of women-based funding in this world that is sexist, in this world that is patriarchal. I would want them to get the funding. So I would want the numbers to lean in their favor. But that's for them to decide. The information that I gave, the suggestion that I gave was for them to pick whatever closely fits what they are. If you want to pick male, great, do what you do, because that's great. But I much rather I think people should check politically, not necessarily identity. But they can. It doesn't matter. Let's see. I hope that makes sense. All right. So we're going to talk about the platform. I am currently watching the Game of Thrones. It's my first time. Oh, Game of Thrones, the beginning of the series, like not the last season. But before the last season, I got my whole life. Hey, Nia, how are you? But the last season, it didn't end like I wanted it to end, so I was kind of pissed. So let's see some things that I wrote. So this is my first paragraph. So if you haven't watched the platform, it is on Netflix. And the premise, just to give y'all some back, just a general, I'm just going to give you general, and then we'll go into a little bit of details as we go on. So generally, when you come into the show, it is a tower of the whole movie is set in some type of building, like a prison. It is a prison because people volunteer to come to it, or they go out of it, and they aren't come. And apparently they can come here. If they survive, they can get some benefits, because apparently a boy was doing it to get degrees or whatever. Anyway, so it's almost like a prison. So so like a study or something like that. So it's almost like, think of like a prison of levels instead of being like cells. And there are apparently 2 people on each level. Correct me if I'm wrong. On each level, there's 2 people. It goes from 0 all the way down to the 250th level, which is a lot, or 300 and something like 250, 300, something like a level that's really, really low. So in the middle of each level, there is like an elevator, but it's not an elevator. It's like a platform that goes up and down the levels like an elevator. So it's almost built like a square, but the middle of it's like a hole, and there's like a platform that goes up and down the different levels. Food that everybody eats starts at 0. And it's like a big platter of luxurious, like think of Hansel and Gretel. You know, the house that they get in where the witch is trying to kill them. But when they get into the house, it's like candy and food and everything everywhere in the house, like just abundant. And it's all pretty. And and tempting. That's what it looks like when it first starts. Like you literally, when the movie starts, there's somebody walking around looking at people prepare the food and checking it and da 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 da. So somebody intentionally is preparing the food. So when it starts on the zero platter, hey, Miss Andrews, how are you? Save this live. I'm about to get on the train. All right. Be careful on the train. Wipe hand sanitizer. 333 platforms. So it starts at 0 and goes all the way down to the basement, which is apparently 333. So the platform on 0, that's where the food starts. Okay? That's where the food starts. It's just abundance of food, like a big platform of food. It goes down level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, all the way down to 333. The people on each level, starting at 1, can eat whatever they want on the platform. But what's left on what they don't eat, it goes down to level 2. Then them people get to eat whatever they want. Then it goes down to level 3. Then it's not replenished. Each level gets to eat whatever they want as much as they want. So as you can imagine, as the platform keeps going down, there is less and less food. Right? So the people on the lower levels, think about like 100 and 200. People on the lower levels, they starving because by the time they get down, it's just empty. By the time they get down, this sounds crazy enough. I don't even usually watch movies, but Diamond taking on it is enough to convince me. Yes, it's good. So you think about it. If it starts at 0 and it's going down each level, and there's 2 people on each floor, it's always 2 people on each floor, and they get to eat what they want. So from level 0 down to 333. Imagine if you were on level 333. Well, let's say 250. How much food would you think was left by the time it got to your floor? Now, mind you, they're eating off the food. I seen a nigga pissing. One of the old man was pissing down the platform once. Oh, forgot this. You can't save food either. If you try, they're watching you. So if you try to sneak food, like after the platform goes down, if you take an apple and try to save it for later, they cut the heat up to where your ass will motherfucking die from a heat stroke, or they cut the heat down where it's freezing and you fucking die from freezing. So, honey, you can't take any extra food. You got to eat it until it's your time, until the platform goes down. And so the main character, I don't remember his name. What is his name? Let me see. Is it Barat? Something. I can't pronounce that. Barat. Something. So let's call him B. So B, the main character, B finds himself on level, did he start off at level 6? I really would like to know how they decided which level you start on when you first come in. That's interesting. I don't remember that part of the conversation, but he starts off at level 6. He is with an old man that's been there. So the old man been there. He already got the game down packed. He trying to move his way up, and he already got schemes and shit going. He already got schemes and shit going. Already got plans in his mind. Is he level 46? Okay. So he already telling them, yo, he trying to teach them the ropes. This is what it is. You trying to expect them, you expecting the people above you for it to be some trickle-down economics, some Republican ass shit. And that's just not going to happen. It's not going to trickle down because there's too many people above us that is hoarding, hence now, that is hoarding and taking more food than they need. There's enough food on the platform to feed everybody if they were not greedy and shady, basically. Right? So this is where the problem, in my mind, this I said the problem is the power structure, as though the people up top are unreachable. And that's what's the symbolism to me, because the people who are making the food, who are providing the food, are actually unreachable. You can't get to level 0. And I thought that was poetic, because you literally can't get to the people who are supplying the food, who are cooking the food, who is deciding what food is going to be on the table. You literally can't even get to that stratosphere. And there are some people, like the dude who owns Amazon, that are so far from us that we can't even get to that level of power. Do you see what I'm saying? We can't even, in our structure and in our social mobility, we can't even get to that level of the amount of power that these people have. And so that's what I thought about in regards to how the power structure was in the show. I wanted to ask y'all, what would be y'all item? Now, I want y'all to give me 2 answers. So each person that comes into this experiment, that comes into this prison, that comes into this test, they get to bring 1 item with them from the outside world. Now, before y'all knew what was going on, what would y'all bring? But now that y'all watched the movie, what would y'all bring? So think about that. I want y'all to give me 2 answers. Before you knew what was going to happen in the prison, because I think that informs you. If you know what's happening on the platform, you would make a decision based on that. But if you don't know what's happening before you go in, what would be your item, and what would be your item after you go? What would your answers be? Oh, you definitely not going to be able, unless you are up top, to be choosy. I probably would bring a book too, but knowing me, I would bring a sword too. Knowing I would be a sword. So you would bring something. See, I thought the rope was genius. I thought if whoever decided to bring a rope, I thought that was genius. A weapon, I don't know. Before I would take a PC, would you have internet? Or would you have power? Were there power outlets? After, I would definitely take a weapon. Yeah. I don't, yeah, I guess. But if you sleep, motherfuckers could take a weapon and flip it on you. I don't know. I wonder, why did he pick a rope from the beginning? Like, I understand why you would pick a rope like after, but I wonder, why would he pick a rope before he actually went there? I don't think, either I wasn't paying attention, or that wasn't explained why he would pick a rope. A weapon, I don't know what weapon I would feel safe with. Maybe a gun, but then I feel like while I'm sleeping, somebody will flip the script when I have the gun pointed at me. Especially when we get into the cannibalism, because I want y'all to think about, there's some cannibalism that happens in the show, because once you get down to those lower levels, there ain't no food on that plate. Yep, you will also run out of bullets too. Yes, you will run out of bullets if you had a gun, especially how long you stand there. Some of them motherfuckers will stand for months. And so all the people that you would have to, that would try to kill you, that you would have to kill, nigga, you would run out. You would run out. That's just what it is. Yeah, I'm trying not to spoil it. I'm trying not to spoil it and tell you what happened. I thought the black guy was gonna fall after trying to escape. I did too. um, so So when he finds himself at level 6, so when he gets to level 6, now level 6 is high, so there's tons of food for you by the time you get to level 6 because you only had 5 levels above you eating. So you by level 6 you kind of cool because it's still enough food compared to where he was in the beginning because it wasn't a lot of food left, just nasty ass picked over food. When he finds himself at level 6 and using the black guy was the B. He was using his rope to ascend to the top of the tower. By this plan, by the plan that he was using, him hustling and saying, "Oh, I'm nice. I'm the exceptional Negro. I believe in your God." He was saying whatever they wanted to hear to get them to help him get up to the next level, and it got him to ascend. Right? It helped him ascend up. So, which was kind of strange because he didn't they didn't give any consequences of him coming up to the next level, the black dude, right? You know how they gave you consequences for eating food? It seems like whoever was doing the experiment, they would have gave consequences for him going up or down, or I don't know, because the Asian lady was going up and down too. Anyway, so I would think that there would be some consequences of you going up and down from the people power, but maybe that didn't go along with the theme, the symbolism of it. But anyway, so yes, he is trying to convince the people. The weapon are these hands, right? He has a rope. One of the people, the black dude, he has a rope, and he's trying to convince the dude up at the people up above him he throw the rope to them, and they help him up. And so you can tell when he is talking to them that he's just trying to say whatever that they want to hear, whatever that they want to hear to get him to get to the next level, to try to get further and further and further and further up. But the problem with that is that it relies on the kindness of strangers. So if you're relying on the kindness of strangers, then you have to fit what they think is morally right, what they think is physically right, any kind of hateful racist, like he eventually found with those people up above him. All it takes is one individual to break the chain of cooperation, and you will be stopped at the level that you are because they're not helping you get up. They're not using your rope to pull you up. As soon as remember the couple that he convinced to help pull him up? As soon as they asked him what God he worshiped, it was clear that they were prejudiced in regards to religion. Right. That's what I was thinking, Brandon. I didn't understand the consequences. I didn't understand it not being consequences because once he got to the next level, that's 3 people on the level. It should have been some type of consequence for that. But maybe not. So once he gets the rope taken from him and he's all mad and crazy, the black dude, I don't know if he's white. Is he Latinx or not? Hey, Marissa, how are you? I don't know if he's white. I don't know if he's white or Latinx. I think he's Latinx. But the other main character, the guy, he convinces the black dude to go down. I guess he convinces him where I pictured in my mind. He convinces him to go down and they ration the food. But if you think about it, what happens is it turns them into evil people because they're killing and fighting people on their way down. So you're trying to do something nice to ration the food off, but you're turning into evil people by going down, and you're forcing people to starve. You're forcing people to not eat, or based on what you do. Well, why was the man haunting him? I don't know. I think that man constantly was a reminder of selling out. Does that make sense? Like, you know how, like, as black people, that's like, if you trying to do something pro black and be community building and blah 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 blah, and you sacrificing to help community instead of being selfish yourself, you always got that home girl or that dude said, girl, you better look out for yourself. Trying to be like Miss Seeley, Miss Sophia, girl, you better bash Mr. Head up and think about heaven later. Like that. Just basically think to reminding you that you can sell out. Oh, girl, don't worry about it. You gotta look out for yourself. You can't always look out for everybody else. It's always that reminder to sell out your mission, your morals, your care for community. And to me, that's what that man represented to me. Him haunting him was that constant reminder of, you gotta look out for yourself. You gotta look out for yourself. I'm good. I haven't gotten around to watching the platform yet, but I'm glad someone is talking about it other than the damn Lion King. Yes. But the old man needed to get got. He was ruthless. Yeah, but think about how we look at people who explore our community. Like, look at like drug dealers, robbers. Sometimes, not all of us, especially not the respectable ones, but we try to understand them, but they like a poison to the community. But we always are like, oh, he just doing what he gotta do. Like, we give that ruthlessness a pass. Like you selling people's mamas drugs, and because you in communities with these mamas that they got 3 babies at home and they're selling you their rent. Do you see what I'm saying? Like we celebrate people being that ruthless. If you really think about it, when we talk about like hip hop music and celebrating them busting capping niggas, and this is just how the street go. Like the negative side of street life, we kind of celebrate it. We make that seem like that's cool, and they just doing what they got to do. But when we see it in this context, when we see it in the context of this movie, we look at that old man as being ruthless when he really was just trying to survive for himself. He just was selfish. He was really just trying to do what he needed to do because he knew that other people would get him. So I might as well, shit. If it's not me selling you the drugs, some other nigga will sell you the drugs. So either you gonna work with me and I'm gonna try to have you work with me, or I'm gonna get you. I'm not really 100% for sure about how much food is worth it. Yeah. I think it was enough food. I definitely think it was enough food. If you only have 2 people on a floor, definitely you can get to 1 second. My mother is calling. Well, texting. I'm pretty worried about her. She's acting weird about this corona. So let me go to, I think it would taken a while to regulate that though. Yes, definitely. Um, it would still kill many people trying to decide how much each floor can get to eat. Yeah. But scarfing definitely ain't solving the problem. So let's go to. So yes, I wrote um. So you have to have. So think about it. So they're on this mission. So so they on this mission to get more food. It's over. It depends on. That's 666 people. Yeah, definitely. 666 people. Um, I don't know. I don't know how much food is on there, but I know we don't need a lot of food to survive. And we don't need as much as we think we do. But people were dying because they were killing each other to survive. If everybody had enough to eat and they agreed, they wouldn't be dying at the rate that they were dying. They were killing people to survive. I didn't figure that out if it was all in one day, once a day. I think it was once a day. Um, so him and the black dude and the white, the Latinx dude. So B and Derek. I don't remember their names. So let's call B and Derek. So B and Derek are now on this mission to get the food to survive the bottom level because they're now on this moral mission. We got enough food to survive for people. Just take a little bit, or everybody, or they stop you totally because you ate so much yesterday, nigga, you can survive a day without eating. And this is their decision they're making. So they're being already tyrannical. Like they're being tyrants in deciding, just like the others, like the people up top, deciding what's going to eat. So they're on this mission to get everybody fed, I guess, to the bottom, to see what the bottom was. It for them to see what the bottom was? But anyway, so that pinna cotta, how do you say that shit? That little, whatever that thing that the black dude had at the end, playing God, yes. Whatever that thing that the black dude had at the end that he was feeding the little girl, that he was doing for the little girl. What is it called? Was it pinna cotta? I can't pronounce that word. Panna cotta, whatever that was. He had a plan to deliver a message through that panna cotta. It was to communicate the fact that the tyranny structure was not that. It basically was that it had not broken, almost like the human spirit, not fully, but as they descend to the bottom, their descending to the bottom is married to violence, which is the paradox. They cannot possibly take care of the food that's happening without actually harming people that they intended to save, which is strange as fuck. Without viciously fighting off other prisoners who refuse to cooperate, and to some degree embrace the dog eat dog attitude that runs throughout the prison that they are trying to buck up against. And I think, to me, that's what happened. That's what happens in nonprofits. Think about nonprofits. So the intent the proposal is nonprofits are there to help and build community. But because of capitalism, because of how capitalism works in this society, most of us, we're not sharing how to write grants. We're not sharing organizations. We're not sharing when the grant people come through because we scared that this organization might get it and we might not get it, and it's only a limited amount of money. So who I send the email out when it's time to write the grant and when it's time to do stuff, though I'm on this journey to help community and build community and do all of these things for community, I'm still acting in the same capitalistic dog eat dog way in navigating, even through my morals. Does that make sense? Yeah, it was some kind of dessert. So, which is so really the mission that they're on becomes tainted because you're doing it through violence and force. So it's just like you're no, even though you got this sacred mission, just like the church folks who scheme and do all that kind of shit, you got this sacred mission, but you really just as tainted as the people around you that you're trying to buck up against because you're using and doing it through violence to survive. And they had already, and for survival in the beginning, they had already partaken in like murder and capitalism. So you're not far from those people anyway. Um, but also think that's why down at the bottom floor, I think that's why what the child represented. You feel what I'm saying? Um, how much is Netflix gonna cost me? Um, I think I paid $9, $9.99. I don't know what the new price is, but I was grandfathered in to the lower price because I've been with them for a while. But I'm for sure if you got like I got fire sticks, so I be speaking and doing. I'm sure there's a way to watch it for free online, girl. You better try to watch it for free. They rich, they make enough money. I just don't like. Sometimes I'm lazy and don't have time to go search for the free stuff. So I use my privilege of having a little bit of money. Not rich, but I put that in my budget of monthly expenses. So I think that's what the little girl represents. Because when we see the Asian mama going up and down on the platform, so one day while they're on one of the floors, there's a woman, as the food is coming down, there's a woman sitting on the platform, an Asian woman. And the old dude tells him that that's a mother, and she goes down to either she's looking for her daughter. I think in the beginning it says she's looking for her daughter. I think in the beginning he says, yes, she's looking for her daughter. So it implies that she's looking for her. But what you actually can tell is she's going up and down the platform, going down there to feed her daughter and protect her. Because she's all the way at the bottom. And you know that she's being protected because she's down there by herself. And her mama's going down there to protect her and feeding her, just having enough food to go down there and feed her. If you pay attention, for real. Because there ain't no way in the way this is set up that she would be protected and not eaten if her mother, because they're eating humans to survive. So if she's all the way down at the bottom, her mother had to be going up and down the floors in order to save her. Going down. To bring her food, to bring her something just enough for her to survive down there where she was. So when they go down and see the little girl and she's in tip-top shape, she wasn't attacked. She was by herself. She was sleeping under the little bed. So clearly the mama was going down there to feed her. And they didn't think she existed, but she actually existed. The mama was protecting her. They implied that she was going down there to find her, but she wasn't. I don't feel she was going down to find her. This wasn't fully explained, but because she was down there unharmed, to me, I felt like she was bringing her food to the bottom, kind of representing the mother's love, her selflessness, and dedication to her mother to ensure the survival of her daughter, and that's typical of many people. Indeed, the little girl appears healthy and even untraumatized. Yes. So what do y'all think she represents? Yes, I do too, Queen. I think that she was going down there to bring her food and to kill whoever was on her platform with her so she would survive. I think the mother wasn't playing with them hoes. Why not bring your child to your level? Oh boy, throwing ropes and moving between the levels. Why not her? I don't know. Oh, because if you stayed on the level, you would freeze. Because if you're taking extra food, you would freeze. You would freeze or get hot or whatever the consequences was. But if you're on the platform, you don't have to worry about those consequences, right? Because she clearly taking extra food down to her people each time she go down the level. But her being on the platform, she don't have to worry about the consequences of if you're hoarding food. Does it make sense? So because she's going down, honey, I take whatever food I want. It don't matter because if I take an extra food at level 7, I'm going down on the platform. So I don't have to worry about these temperature consequences that you giving me because it doesn't matter. I'm on the platform. It's gonna go up and it's gonna go down. And when does she get off? That was a strange thing. Like if you're riding it up and down, child, when do you get off? What happens when you get all the way up? And why you ain't killed all the people? Why you ain't take your baby all the way up to 1 and kill them people so she can sit at 1? But I don't know. But that's what I got from the mama. Um, so symbolically, I think the little girl represents like the human spirit, the unbroken, despite the overwhelming, dehumanizing influences of the system. The little girl represents the human spirit. To me, like it's like there's always a stream of people who just have that care in them. There's always those people who are just not affected by capitalism. There's always those people who will give you their last. There's always the human spirit of survival and helping each other and blah 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 blah. I think that's what she represents. And there's always somebody there invested in protecting that. And that's what the mother represents to me. So the food is regulated more as you go down. I think so. Because if you're on the first floor, if you're on the first floor, you're not in survival mode. If you're on first, second, and third floor, you are not in survival mode. You have an abundance of food. You only can eat so much, so you're going to get full at some point. You're going to get full and go sit your ass down, fat as a tick. You feel what I'm saying? So, and if you're on the level with the other person, if you're on level 1, 2, 3, and you with the other person, y'all are not worried about killing each other. Do you feel what I'm saying? Y'all are not worried about killing each other because y'all have enough food. All y'all got to do is eat and go to sleep and wait for the platform to come up and come back down again. When you get further down, because of the scarcity of food, it becomes more and more cutthroat. But we see that. We see that in hood urban communities. I don't want to say black communities, but we know who's marginalized. In poor communities. That because of the studies show it's not because of race, it's because of lack of opportunity, it's because of job opportunities, it's because of scarcity of money, it's because of operating from a place of scarcity. When you operating from a place of scarcity, morals go out the window for some people. Now there's some people who are like, I have my morals and I'm going to try to do the right thing, blah, 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 blah. But then there's some people it's like, yo, I'm trying to eat. I can only think about me, like as how I became an escort in my past. It was because shit, I'm broke. Prior to that, my nose was up to prostitutes. My nose was up. I remember there used to be this dude who would cruise the would cruise the gay club for transsexuals, and he would take them to his apartment and give them $20 just for shaking his booty in his face. One of my friends, I see her get out of his car, so I know we call him the $20 man. I see her get out of his car, so I know she just was turning a trick with him. And this is my friend. And I'm like, bitch, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you prostituting? What? Like, $20 ain't that deep. Like, I was young, so my nose was up about prostitution because I come from a churchy ass fucking background. You feel what I'm saying? So prostitutes and promiscuity, there was rules even as a queer child. Well, as a young child, I wasn't having sex or doing queer sex or anything like that. I was experimenting with my friends. But I hadn't, I'm just kind of navigating. I wasn't set in my sexuality. Growing up in church instilled a certain disdain for promiscuity. It instilled a certain disdain for prostitutes, anything like that. Like, it was like, they was a scum of the earth. Dope fiends, prostitutes, anything like that. I was turning my nose up at, like, oh no, disgusting. And so, baby, life said, hey, we're here. Real life said, here you go. And I got fired for being trans. And I needed coins. I had custody of my brother. My mom was in prison. And I needed coins. My homegirl was like, girl, you better put your ad up. Girl, you better put your ad up. And start getting money from these tricks. And so that's what happened. That's how I got into the escort business. Because those morals went out the window. I hadn't had when I was 23, I had only had sex with 2 people. I had sex with my very first boyfriend at 16. And then I had sex with my second boyfriend when I was 18. Didn't have sex no more until I was 22. And I was in a relationship at that time. Then I got into escorting once I kicked him to the curb. So, the morals of that went out the window when it was time for me to survive. So that's just, I think that happens to a lot of people when we were just talking about the drug dealer and the prostitute and the hustling and the person stealing social security numbers and stealing their grandmama checkbook, all that stuff, because the need is there. Morals go out the window, right? That's what I see in the world. So let's talk about the old man. So the old man, to me, the old man is perfect. I'm glad that they made him old because he was a perfect example of the boomer generation. We shading boomers now, but he is a perfect example of the boomer generation. Like most adults, he's been living in the system for too long, and it has shaped, and they have been shaped by the injustices. They are invested in the capitalism. They are invested in the respectability politics. They are invested in the conservatism. They are invested, like when we talk about white women voting for Trump. Like, they are invested in, even though the interest is against them, they are invested in their proximity to white men. So they strategically vote in the white man's favor because if they perform femininity in the best way, if they perform their womanly duties, they get to benefit in partnering with white men, and that's why they are going. They play along with the system. They play along with the system and play along with voting against their interests because it's literally not against their interests because they are benefiting from their proximity of white men, and so they're doing what they feel gets them to the best level, even if it's not morally right. And they make excuses for making these immoral decisions. Make sense? When we talk about Black folks and respectability politics and how you're supposed to act like a good, respectable Negro. Supposed to act like a good, respectable Negro and dress a certain way and act a certain way and be a Christian and be this reflection of basically white Christianity. They definitely know how to navigate and regulate that particular system. Absolutely. They know how to play that game. Just like, it's just like us in other situations, in a lower stratosphere of social class. We know how to play certain games. We know how to look at groupies and video vixens and people like Drea Michelle and people like Evelyn Lozada. Those people who have won the lottery of those women who have won the lottery of beauty, and they exploit it in moving them up the social ladder in their security and money. They know what they're doing. And I'm not saying that it's bad or good because we all do it on some level. But they are working their way up into the upper echelon. They're working the system. That's just how it is. It's not really right or wrong, but they're just working the system. And so I think the old man represents people who have been in the system for so long that they, to me, they think that that's the right way to go. This is how we survive. This is how we do what we do. We're going to vote for Biden, even though he is not progressive, even though he is the worst choice, even though he's not a good choice, even though he's a moderate and doesn't really do anything progressive. We're going to vote for him because we are smart enough to know how this system works. These white folks is not going to take a chance on somebody that's a little bit more progressive. Or we don't want them to take a chance because then all the gays and the queers and the women's and the progressive women's who want abortions, then they're going to get what they want. We're going to stick with this moderate conservative motherfucker. Moderate progressive. I'm sorry, not moderate conservative, but on the Democratic side, they conservative. We're going to vote for them. You see what I'm saying? I think that he represents the people who've been in the system too long. And so their morals are bereft. And he's just trying to survive. Okay, what else? Now the end was kind of weird, but I think the end represents, the little girl represents that we know. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. I think that's what she represents. The child represents that. What they're doing doesn't change anything. Them coming down to save everybody food and blah 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 blah. It doesn't really change the system. Everybody up top is not gonna give up their place willingly. You may have stopped it for a little bit. There might be a shake in the system by you coming down and wear everybody out. But there have been people who have died in the process of you trying to buck the system. We know that is totally true in real life. You trying to do the system in your way, it's going to harm somebody. Somebody will be harmed. Definitely the weak and marginalized. Somebody will be harmed. That's just what it is. Um, what else? But yeah, I think the little girl represents human spirit and how the children are the future. That's what it is. So, we got about 20 minutes. What y'all want to talk about? What were your thoughts? Do you think you would be gluttonous if you were in the platform? How do you think you would navigate being in that space? Would you be one of the ruthless people, or would you be trying to help the system? Would you eat just a little bit? The Working Girl Chronicles. What's that? I can't really say. Do you think there will be a sequel? I don't know. Could there be a sequel? Maybe. I don't know. Trying to think of what do y'all think of? I wonder why was the wife and the husband together on the platform that the black dude was trying to go up to? I wonder why the wife and the husband was together. I wonder how they worked that out. And I didn't really get how you ascend. That's another thing. Like, how do you decide how do you ascend up? Because didn't oh boy ascended up and then ascended down? Like, wasn't he on a lower level? I didn't understand how you ascend up and down. Do you just pop up randomly on a good floor and then on a bad floor? I couldn't, as I was watching, I couldn't figure out how you were, you know, it was random. Yeah, I couldn't figure that out. And that's kind of shady too. Like, it's just random. And are you on that one? I couldn't figure out the time period. Are you on that one floor for a month? Yeah, I saw that part. But when I saw the part where I know how they moved them, I just didn't understand what happens. Every month was random. And that's why the people that were even on the top floors would eat a lot because they've been on the worst floors. Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. So it's like, yo, we've been on the worst floor. So it's like, and we don't know when the next time we're going to eat. So we need to get fat and full. Oh. But then that wouldn't serve the purpose of the experiment because then, sometimes you wouldn't eat, but sometimes you would. If it started at the bottom and worked its way up, sometimes, you know, that wouldn't work because sometimes you would eat and sometimes you wouldn't. And you could wait. It's like, oh, it started on the bottom today. So I'm probably not, if I'm at the top, I'm probably not going to eat. But if it starts on the top in 2 days, I'm going to eat good. So I can see that you just be intermittent fasting. That's it. But that could change. I could see how that could force you to be kind of greedy. Could it force you to be greedy? But I don't know if everybody knows what's happening, then you would think that everybody no, because that's not how life works. You would think that if everybody knew what was happening, if everybody knew that we're going to be put on random spaces, we're going to be put randomly on each floor. So we're all the same people in this building. So if we all agree and talk to each other and agree that, yo, we're going to save some food for everybody so that one day, bitch, when you on level 231, It'll be some food for you. But that would be too good. That would be too people being too good and too cooperative, and that's just not how life works. It is some greedy ass people who don't give a fuck about community in the world, and that's just what's going to happen. It's not going to benefit anybody. And what would y'all want? Like if y'all were outside of the experiment and it was offered, what would y'all think would be fair to go and participate in the experiment? What would y'all want? Like, oh boy was getting degrees. What would y'all want? What would be worth it? Like your ass could be dying in this place. What would be worth it? Like $50 million? I don't know. What would be worth it for y'all to go and try to survive that experiment? I don't know what would be worth it. Just the fact that you could die. My ticket to heaven, right? If I'm guaranteed through the pearly gates, bitch. I don't know. I can't think of anything that would be worth it. Because if you go and die, that shit ain't worth it. It's only if you guaranteed to live. Let me go get some water. I'll be right back. Only if you guaranteed to live. I don't know. I think it just was a matter of paper. I just get to say I have these degrees. And they'll be official, like an honorary. Since y'all been locked down, what else have y'all been watching? What else has been entertaining y'all? I watched Cork with to any of if you're a patron on our Patreon, all of our podcasts, we invited our patrons to watch on Netflix Party to watch Corked with us last night on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday. We watched Cork. So it was like this, but we all would be watching a movie and we watch Cork and we comment in the chat box. All of us is commented talking about the movie at one time. It was so fun. So that was exciting. So we watched Cork and that was good. Maybe guaranteed easy life for my family. Maybe that. Yeah. So if you survive, you'll have an easy life. But if you don't survive, your family will have an easy life. Okay, that might be worth it. Maybe. That's what I'm talking about. That we use Netflix Party Queen. That's what we did. Like, so we just put a call out to all of our patrons and we sent them the link to the Netflix party and we watched Court. And there was a bunch of people in there because it was all of our podcasts did it. So Marsha's Play, us, T with Queen and J, Inner Whole Uprising, Bag Ladies, and Queer Wop. So all five of us, we put a message out to our patrons, and it was fun because we all are commenting and laughing and making jokes while we're watching it. It was fun. I am obsessed with the wrestling series Dark Side of the Ring, watching constantly. I haven't heard of that. What disturbs me the most was that the child was probably a product of rape. The child was probably a product of rape. Why you say that? Are we talking about the Asian little girl? Oh, because she didn't come in with a child. How did you? I didn't hear that part. I didn't hear the part. I didn't hear the part about how she came in. I know in the beginning when the old man was telling us about the Asian lady, he said she is going up and down the platform trying to find her daughter. And then throughout, they're like, oh, the director who came in said that. Oh, that she didn't come in with a child. Oh, so she probably got, oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting thing. How long she been there? To have a baby and have it down there protecting it. I thought about your podcast when you talked about the eunuch, and the eunuch of Game of Thrones was exactly what you said. Yes, if you go back and look at like research and literature about eunuchs, and where they were in society and how they fit in each society, because how a eunuch fit in, is it Macedonia? Is that how you say it? I don't know. Anyway, Macedonia. Anyway, that area compared to how they were in like the dynasties of Asia, it was two totally different things. Like in the dynasties of Asia, like it was a social class. Like you could, because of their connection to the dynasty and where, how much, not how much power, but they had a little bit of power, and it could actually bless your family by you becoming a eunuch. So a lot of people recruited themselves into being a eunuch so they can have a better social class. So that was one. And then some of them were forced into being eunuchs. And some people who had ambiguous genitalia, and some people who had, they had queer bodies from birth, because the Bible talks about that. The Bible on, it is Matthew 19:22 or 19:12. Matthew 19:12. Y'all know I think I'm a Bible expert, bitch. Matthew 19:12. Yes, Matthew 19:12. It literally talks about eunuchs, for there are eunuchs who were born that way, and there were eunuchs who were made into eunuchs by others, and there were those who chose to live like eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. Like it was a religious thing. They became eunuchs like priests become priests. Like they become priests to be chaste and to be pure and stay virgins. So they would become eunuchs to go into that kind of thing. But there always also was people who were created for eunuchs, like they would be created eunuchs because it would be punishment. But it also would be so they can, if they like were queer, so they can live with the women and take care of the women. They would be like handmaids to the concubines. And then there were some that were born that way. They were like born with ambiguous genitalia. And so Jesus in this scripture says the ones who can accept this should accept it. And that's why it's kind of strange, that scripture right there. Went into talking about eunuchs. That scripture right there was kind of strange when I read it, because people when religious people who were always anti-trans and and I'm not implying that how eunuchs manifested in the culture of that day, that they were transgender. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is some of us who are intersex, some of us who, a lot of times when people talk about trans people, they always talk about in the terms of the binary, how there are, you either a man or you're a woman. You're either born male or you're either female. There's no room in that kind of conversation for nuances. There's no room for people who are born in the gray area when it comes to genitalia and when it comes to incongruency in their brain, because we know through science and study now that their brain, what's between your ears, we always talk about what's between your ears is more important than what's between your legs. Your brain is actually structured like the opposite sex, even though your body went another direction. And so those nuances that science has proved, they didn't have those things, nowhere near that kind of technology, nowhere near that kind of science back then. So how somebody like me would manifest back then, I could have probably thought that there's so many things that could happen. I could probably have manifested into a eunuch based on what was going on with my body, what was going on with my mind, but what was going on in those kind of things. The culture was totally different. And so how this kind of oppression would come up. I've talked about this before. I talked about this on my last one. I actually go through some of my thoughts on eunuchs in this book, in my chapter of this book, Otherwise Christian 2, Stories of the Resistance, by MX Chris Page. So anyway, I talk about that, and I'm like, it's more complicated than people think when it comes to how culture impacts us, when it comes to how biology impacts us. This is why I tell people it's no. I think, talked about this before. I think that binary is negative for us. Can you give us a few articles on the brain being the opposite sex? I've honestly searched it and was never able to find any medical journals on such a thing. Oh, wonderful. I love people. Not saying that you're being shady, but I love people who, you know, like you, who likes, honey, I want to find and read for myself. I think that's amazing. One second, because I am one of the people I like to read research. Um, so let's see. So in 2004, there was a study conducted in Amsterdam by the Netherlands Institute for Neuroscience with the use of 3 different stains throughout the nuclei of the hypothalamus. They were able to determine that male to female, like transsexuals, had the same size and numbers of neurons of normal females, and this similarity occurred in opposite in females to males. And it was prior to hormones being included. So let me give you the link. It was, let me see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it. No, that's not it. I'm going to just copy all of this for you to look it up. This is a bunch of, damn. It gives you some names and references to look up because it's multiple ones. Oh, this is too long. Sorry. Shit is saying that my message is too long. Yeah, I thought eunuchs were castrated boys that were turned into sex slaves. So that is, in some cases, that is true. Yes. In some cases, yes. In some cultures, definitely yes. But there was three types of eunuchs. That's what I was just talking about in the scriptures. There was some that were born with ambiguous sex characteristics, like ambiguous genitalia and stuff like that, that will be turned into eunuchs or stayed how they were, depending on how deformed their genitalia was. And then there are people who were punished and turned into eunuchs, or for social mobility turned into eunuchs voluntarily. And then there were some people who went a more religious route. They turned into eunuchs for religious purposes. Um, let me see if I can put that up. Who is that person? Nicole Sanders. Oh my God, this is not a lot of text, man. Why they give you a limit on text? Okay, let's see if that works. So they didn't say childlike. 1 second, I'm trying to give Nicole the information. They didn't say childlike. They turned into what they just didn't go through puberty the same way. They didn't like they voice they had. That's another thing. Religiously, they would castrate boys so they can stay with high tones, especially like in the Catholic. They would in the Catholic religion, not religion. Yeah, religion. So they can be good choir boys and stay boy like. You know, they're perverts. They would castrate them, and they would say it was religious reasons, and they would. Oh man, this is annoying. Hold on. Here on the bottom of this article I wrote, it's a whole list of studies. Go there. It's a whole list of studies that you can go research yourself. You can go to Google Scholar. I know when I'm looking for research, I go to Google Scholar. So there is a separate Google called Google Scholar that actually looks through articles for you. So you can search for some of those doctors. I haven't updated that article in a minute, but there's the article, the study still exists. So you can go. That just gives you some breadcrumbs for you to go look up stuff yourself. But it's not regular Google. So if you have just type in Google Scholar, and a new type of Google will pop up, and it actually give you peer-reviewed articles about whatever subject you want to search for. So it's just not a Google search that's going to give you, articles, images, da da da. It's actually a scholarly Google search. So that's when I want research and facts, that's where I go. Not just regular Google. So that's a tip for y'all if y'all looking for information. And you can search for anything. Like I got in an argument with somebody about race and love and interracial relationships, and I had been researched stuff like this. So they were saying untrue things, and I was like, no, there's research, like actual peer reviewed, scientific studied research, not just anecdotal bullshit. Weird when the last time I when I used to be on YouTube back in 2010, 2009. I thought of Blanchard as I think of him in a way of like Sigmund and Freud. Like I said Sigmund and Freud. Sigmund Freud. Like the way I think about Freud. Like I think like they're onto something, but I don't think it is provable. No, I don't think Michael Jackson was a eunuch. So like how do I explain this? So I never was a proponent of psychoanalytical analysis. I don't like that particular um, field of psychology because when you talk about the id and study of the mind, not the brain. The brain is a physical structure that you can actually study in research. But when we're talking about studying the mind, something that you can't observe, I think it gets witchy. I think when we talk about like the official scientific method of how you're supposed to research things and observe things, the mind isn't a physical thing that you can observe. You can observe the brain, but not the mind. The mind is something, it's real, but you can't just study it like you can study the physical brain. Does that make sense? And so, because of that disadvantage in the scientific method, I can't just trust it. Like I'm not fully invested. Yes. To me, Blanchard seemed like a Chester trying to justify his attraction. Yes. I done finished cooking dinner. Thanks for keeping me company, y'all. All right. Eat your food. Eat. I hope it's delicious. What you cooked, Demetria? Yeah, I just feel like I just feel like he was just trying to explain something that we have that science hadn't had an explanation for yet. And so we recently are having these breakthroughs in theories about transness because it was a point where they didn't care about us to even do studies on us or to invest money in doing studies on us. We just started getting studies. We just started getting them 2004, 2005, and so on and so on and so on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes. Makes sense? Was Michael Jackson a unit? No. Michael Jackson wasn't a unit. Come on, HelloFresh. How much does that cost you? Is it like a monthly subscription? Because I wonder when it comes to buying food, like, is that would that be cheaper? I know it would be healthier, but I would be interested to see if that is cheaper in the cost of what I spend on food anyway. This is random, but I've always think about how trans people in the past managed their dysphoria without hormones and surgery. Um, hmm, I think it was so oppressed that folks didn't even know about it. Like I just think it was so oppressed. Because when we think about like Mary Jones back in the 1800s, that when we were talking about when we think about how she lived her life, and how they were locking her up for robbing niggas. She was a prostitute that was a trans prostitute that was robbing people. When we think about how when we talk about Francis Thomas, who was the trans slave, who was a former trans slave, who was one of the first trans people to testify in a congressional hearing in the 1866 Memphis riots. When we talk about people like her, when we talk about Lizzie Montgomery out in Texas, who was in the newspaper for after Juneteenth, when she found out Juneteenth, when just like when all the rest of the Texas slaves found out that they were free and it became a holiday, she transitioned. Um, I think for some people, it just is you got to do it. But then there's some people who hide it. They go in hiding. So they live their life one way and then, behind closed doors, dress up in their clothes. And then some people they just can't hide it. And they just gotta, be who they are. And I think based on the level of oppression in your particular country, how that manifests is going to be different. You feel what I'm saying? Like there's some places where, if we catch you in a dress and a wig, bitch, you are hanging. We are hanging you. The consequences are dire. But then as you go further west in the United States, it was a little bit more free. If you understand how the colonies worked, like this side of the states was established for a very, very long time, a much longer time than some of the Western places. Like before Texas was a state, before when they were taking over some of the Mexican land, before the Louisiana Purchase, before people were moving west and people were leaving, like slaves were running away and going west. We don't talk about this much. When we talk about the Underground Railroad, a lot of times because of white supremacy, the story that we tell is the slaves coming from the north to from the south to a amazing, more progressive north, when it was just as many races up there. But there's also an Underground Railroad that went south, that went to Mexico, that went further down. Instead of going up, they went down. Or they went west. They went to California. Before these places was, like when we talk, there's a book called U.S. History, the Queer History of the United States. They talk about how there's a reason why San Francisco was this gay mecca. There's a reason why San Francisco was this gay mecca, because San Francisco was way more progressive, because it had Asian people. When they were going through all that racist and slavery shit, people who were running away going west before California was created into it was already a place. There was already Native Americans there. Before it was a California, people were already going out there. That's why on the podcast, when I interviewed the Native American girl, Yui Begay, Yui was talking about. That's what we were discussing on the podcast. Like, it was, people were already here, and like she said, in her culture, she's a Navajo. She was like, we call Black people the dark ones that roam, or they had a word for them, because they would be leaving plantations and running to the west, and they would run into Indian tribes, and that's how Indians became. They became not Indians, Native Americans. That's how they started to intermingle. There were some of them that didn't mingle at all, but then there were some that did mingle with slaves, and they became a whole other sector of Black Native Americans. And that's a part of her history. That's a part of what she knows. And so coming out west, it was a little bit less strict in regards to how you can manifest whatever kind of queer shit that you had going on. You can manifest it different when you come further out west. It wasn't until the culture, the Puritan, white supremacist, patriarchy, capitalism, it wasn't until that all kind of homogenated over Western that when we all became the official United States, and we had to live under this, capitalistic, white supremacist, patriarchal regime, then it started to, all across the country, these rules of what was respectable, these rules about race, these rules about gender started to be more prominent. But in certain places, they were able to be free. That's why the Tenderloin in San Francisco has such a vast, deep history of trans people living there, going all the way back to the early 1900s. It's documented. And so, if the first documents was the early 1900s, there had to be more people before then. They just didn't care about them enough to document them. But the Tenderloin has so much history in regards to trans people existing there, because it was a mecca for queer folks, because they weren't burdened by the rules as much. Now, it changed as conservatism spread, but they weren't burdened by the rules of of the, like, fucking New England. that area, the initial colonies, who had, they were colonized by, people who were running from Europe. They were running from the rules of the Catholic Church. They wanted to be the progressiveness of the Catholic Church. They wanted to be pure white family unit, and that was the rule. That was the rules of family back then. The Puritans said, no, we want this godly, pure, conservative way of living, and it became the foundation of this country. Anyway, I think we have talked enough. So make sure, if you're watching, thumbs up. Like I said, I'm going to try to do this every Friday between 7 and 8. If I don't start exactly at 7, it's going to be sometime between 8. You can email me at diamondstyles, DIAMONDSTYLZ. If you have a subject or a suggestion of a subject. What else do I have coming up? Because of Corona, I'm not really doing a lot of traveling, of course. But we are organizing as an organization. If you don't know, I'm the executive director of Black Trans Women's Inc. So we just had a meeting today about how we are going to go forward in regards to helping community. We're writing grants and really trying to get coins so that we can help trans people in the South. So if you are in any type of need, we haven't totally fleshed out the programming, but we're in the process. We're going to do it within the next week or two. If you know trans people that are in need, be on the lookout. We will be putting out links so that we can give out grants to people who are in need for, we know as a Black trans led organization. We know that sometimes during things like that we can be forgotten. And yes, can we watch another movie together? I don't have one in mind yet, but just checking. I don't know when we're gonna do that again. That was the first time we did it, and we were experimenting, and it did work out really, really well. Um, yeah, so I don't know when we're gonna do it again. Monthly depending on the number of people and meals, I spend about $70 every 2 weeks. You can get it more frequently. They have excellent customer service. Oh yes, come on, $70. Um, but yes, we are coming up with some programming to be able to help Black trans people, particularly in the South, because we don't get as much funding as the people on the West Coast and on the East Coast. So that we can, and some brown folks too, immigrants, anybody that's Black trans or less privileged than that of any race or color or age. Um, Native Americans, immigrants of any kind, that kind of stuff. So we are really trying to create programs so that people who are going through COVID-19, sex workers who, they can't travel, so they can't make money. They can't come in contact with people without putting themselves at risk for COVID-19. Like, we're really trying to think outside of the box and help people who are on the margins. So that is the programming that we're trying to create. And we will be asking, some orgs to give us funding for that. So that's what we're trying to work on now, still in the process. So I hope y'all are keeping yourself safe, washing your hands, do whatever you need to do in this time to de-stress and relax. And if you're off from work, enjoy your time off for the time being. Mother Nature is saying, sit y'all ass down. So I hope we are sitting ourselves down and taking care of ourselves. And I'll see y'all next week.